We are here live on the Embodied Business Show, and I am here with a beautiful friend of mine. Previously, years back, she was a client, but now she's just expanding, doing so much in the world, and I am so excited. She has just released her first book. She has spoken on stages internationally, and she is doing some really, really big things, changing the game for women across the world. Laniece Listens, welcome to the Embodied Business Show.
Embodied Business. Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Casey. Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
Oh, I could talk about you all day. You know I love you and what you're doing and everything. It is such, I think, because I'm also ex-military, there's a certain place in my heart that I have for women who come into this work and are willing to just step all the way in. And, this is where I really want to take this conversation today. We're talking about it just before, we're having a bit of a chuckle, but, so many people talk about self-love and really being a woman who is encapsulating that. But it's also been like, in my worldview, it's been really it's been let down, that word, because it is a huge topic, and you are the queen, absolute queen of self-love. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. No, you're right though. It's a loaded word, right? Oh my gosh, it's been very surface level. Like people hear it, it sounds good, like a buzzword sounds good, but it just goes so deeper than just where it's been going. Yeah, for sure.
I remember back in the day, I'd take a photo of my legs in the bath and be like, #self-love, or I'd get my nails done and be like, self-love. And now I'm like, let's dig into my trauma. That is self-love.
No, seriously. I mean, those things are great for self-care. Getting your nails done is great for self-care, but self-love, something I say, and I think people can't stand me for it sometimes, is I believe one of the highest forms of self-love is self-discipline. Yeah. Right? I believe that one of the highest forms is self-discipline, and being able to know what it is that you need and going to the depths of what that is and knowing that might be scary. Self-love is not fuzzy and warm, and it's the trenches, we're down here. We're hold on, I can't feel inside of my body. I can't feel me. Why is that? Why can I can remember being in calls with you and thinking about well, what does that feel like in your body? And I would feel what's that in my body? What do you mean? What does that feel like in my body? And I think that was really, even just before you, that was a wake up call for me that self-love was just not what I originally envisioned it to be. Yeah. It just, it goes so much deeper. And I know we're going in the flow of this conversation, but I just want everyone to know the journey is not it's more than the word, and the work just gets deep, and it does get dark, and there's light, right? It's not just all butterflies and sunflowers. Wow, I love my sunflowers, and you see them everywhere in here. It gets deep and dark for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because especially having been in the military, in a very male-dominated space, right? It's so easy to disconnect from the part of you that's calling for more, right?
Yes.
What was the thing that really made you wake up and be like, okay, this is where I need to land right now, in how you are in service and how you support women with this?
Yeah, so it was after we spoke about it, but it was after I lost the twins. So I was pregnant, 5 months pregnant, and went through preterm labor, gave birth, and the twins were alive for about a couple of hours, and then they passed. And not only did we lose them, but we lost them on our anniversary, right? So it was boom, boom. And before that had happened, I was on the trajectory to kill it in the military, right? I was oh, I'm going to be someone's commander real soon. I'm going to rule whatever it is that I get to do. And after such a huge loss, I had to take a step back, not because I wanted to, but because my body could not physically go that way anymore. So it just caused me to go on this really, really deep journey with myself and how I operated in the world. Like it broke everything I once held true, it broke it. Like it was like, yeah, that was fake. Yeah, no, you really didn't care about that. Yeah, like, and who are you even? Like, who are you even in this world if at this point after losing them, living didn't feel like it was worth it? And I had a husband and I had a great career and I had a daughter. It wasn't like I had nothing. I was in the eyes of everyone else, I was killing it, right? I was doing very well and I was young. I was, what, at the time, 24.
Yeah.
So it was at that point after losing them that I just refused to believe like this was it. Like there just had to be more. There just had to be more.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard you talk about it a lot. Obviously, us, working closely together and all things, and my whole body's just lit up in like God bumps right now. And it's like, I think when we start to look at like, why do we walk down these journeys, like down this road? Why do we actually choose a deeper path? What often is the cause of the fork in the road is massive grief or massive trauma that happens. And this is why I wanted to bring this conversation here, because most women, when they hear that, if it's happened to you, it's okay to talk about, right? But if it hasn't happened to you, it's completely out of the awareness. And if there's one thing that I know is like women really taking a stand for women to be in their own right, to be in their sovereignty, in their truth of what they're here for, it's because they're faced off with the darkness and they're faced off with the stuff that most people haven't looked at. And so personally, I'm so thankful that you shared that piece here because I know how big that is. And yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. No, you know what? Something, Case, that I have come to in that story and gained like so much power. Like that story has given me everything. My twins, they're in the office with me, right? They're right here. I keep them everywhere with me. I in their little short amount of life, they've opened up so much for me. And so, like you just said, it's the parts of our stories that we want to shy away from that so much is in. Like that's what has allowed me to create all of this love for myself, for others, for my business. Like I know my business is directly tied to them. And that was the biggest. I mean, I tell the story now without crying, but baby, you can catch me on any day and I'll be in here just bawling, like bawling.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to know at that point in my life that I was asking if I was one enough. What did I do wrong? Was I worthy of having my daughter who was already here? Like all of those things. And so to be able to take that and understand and know that they came here to do a mission and that was to like open me up wide up so that I could serve.
Oh.
I have to just show them so much gratitude and allow other women to get to that part of their story that they're running from. And better than anybody, once something is unearthed in you, such as grief, when grief unearths something in you, everything else comes up too, right? Like all the other stuff, like all the other things.
I can't remember the quote. I'm sure you would have heard it, but it's like something along the lines of like, if you do not own your story, it will own you. And it's like when you really land there, right? It's like, what part of you gets to run the show now? Is like, is it the stuff that you're going to hide from? Because like shame will conceal and grief will reveal. Oh, guilt will reveal, sorry. Right? And so like as mothers, especially when you walk through something like that, it's so easy to, because of the way society has positioned, bereavement and all the things, it's easy to hold shame in that. It's easy to deny the part of you as a woman that was impacted by that. And yeah, it's such a big piece. So I'm like, I remember watching one of my she's family to me. She's like pretty much my second mom. She raised me. And she lost her son, had a stillborn. And I lived like 2,000 kilometers away from her, and we sat on the phone for like 4 hours just crying together through the process. And like, I still feel that little boy's energy everywhere. Like, he is always around, and I see it and I feel it. And it's like, no matter how someone comes into the world, they've always got a mark.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you going to access that? Are you going to bring
Yeah.
that through for yourself? And I love that you honor your babies through everything that you do, because this is the work, right? This is really
Yeah.
being a secret.
I,
Yeah.
no, that, and bless her and her baby, because losing a child is just not something that, it's just something that changes you forever, right? It just
Yeah.
changes you. And when you just said, as a woman in this world, and especially in the military, I was still seen as just like a body, right? And
Yeah.
they were just looking for me to return back to work, and
Mm.
so quickly, right? And it took, I want to say that after losing them, even though a lot of it is kind of, I had PTSD after this, but a lot of it made me stand up for myself in a way that I've never probably stood up for myself. And I would consider myself a pretty like assertive woman in a sense, just in my presence alone. I never had to really like, does that make sense? Like I never had
Yeah.
to, I'm 5'9". I'm a big person.
Energy.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
so I never really had to be extremely assertive. It's just kind of like what was given in just like my energy. But in that moment, I had to stand up for myself. And I'm like, you guys are not going to treat me like this. Like, I'm not going to just be a body here. You're not just going to make me come back to work. You're not going to, like, this would be the beginning of self-love for me. Me standing up and saying that you're not going to just treat me like I'm nothing. Like,
A
no.
number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a number, just another body. It was terrible how they were treating me, which is what actually added to like the trauma of the entire process.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that would
I love,
definitely.
I love that you said that was the start of your self-love journey, right? Because, and just not to move away from that, but also to
Yeah.
like open it right up, because like a lot of people, when they are like in the work, it will feel like you're in the trenches. Like it will feel like that. And that's where it starts. It's like, where do you kick that gear on where it's like, well, hold on a second. What about me first? Because if I'm not here fully online for you, it ain't happening for you either. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
tell me, once you made that decision to be like, no, I'm not here, I'm like doing this, where did the career come into play with this? Because it's like, when we start to talk about what it means to be embodied in your business as a self-love coach, right? We see a lot of people who are like promoting self-love, and they're doing all right. But you're like
Yeah.
speaking on stages, you just put your book out, you're starting to move some really big mountains. And like, what was the thing that allowed it to like really land for you, that this is where I'm at, this is what I get to do in the world?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question, and I'm gonna answer it like in pieces because I want everyone to understand that in the journey that there's going to be doubt, right? Then there's going to be like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And like, like super trusting that inner voice of like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like, Laniece, this is where you're supposed to be at. I would say though, once I made the decision that I was getting out of the military, because right after we lost the twins, 5 months later, I was pregnant again. I was pregnant with my rainbow baby, my Darius, because at that time I was like, I felt I needed something. I was like, I can't. And is that the best place to go and create from? I still created from that space, but I needed something. I needed my baby. I needed my babies, and I had Darius, which he's absolutely amazing. He's everything. I mean, he has all the energy. But after that, I got into therapy, and I just knew. I knew from that point that I had to make a choice on if I was going to be in service in the military or be in service in God's work in my life. And the pain that I was feeling and that I was working through, I wished I no woman. I wished I no man And so once I started to feel better, it literally happened with me helping my family, right? So you get something good, I'm like, hey, I figured something out. Let me tell y'all all about it so you can do it. And I kind of fell into coaching. It wasn't like, I'm going to be this coach and I'm going to help people love themselves. I was more like, I love y'all and I want y'all to love yourselves more. And there's this deeper healing that we all can access, so we don't have to walk around with the world on our shoulders, the weight of the world on our shoulders. And so that is where I made the decision to just begin serving women. And I started doing things for free, holding free workshops, holding free, just any way that I can get women together to start feeling safe and just happy and joy and in sharing their deepest, darkest parts, like the parts that you're afraid, like that you're ashamed of, not even just afraid of, that you're ashamed of.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh yeah, this is it right here. Like this is where I'm supposed to be, because the weight that they leave behind when they walk out the door. I know that weight. I know it. I carried it so long by myself. And the twins broke it. They were like, you either carry this weight, continue, or you and carry this weight and die, or you let it go and live free. Like, and free others while you out here. Free others while you out here on this path, right? So yeah.
I'm like really feeling what you're saying. And I want to link back to something because you said I either be in service in the military or I be in service of God's work.
Yeah.
Right. And that hit me because I remember from a really young age as a little girl of like, I'm going to be in service. And I thought it was military as well. I thought that was my path. And then now I'm like, it was here leading me here. God's work. Like every fucking day of my life, leading me here. Right?
Yes.
And I think for so many of us, like that calling gets dismissed because of what it takes to hold it.
Talk about it. Because they want, and I don't want to say they want. What I find is, and I said this earlier, if you see my status, I said people want the wins without the work. They want the shifts they want all of the things that come on the other side of the work, but you cannot skip the parts. And I tried. Trust me, y'all, if y'all listening, if y'all watching, I tried. There's not a dollar amount. There's not a program. There's not a video. There's not a motivational message that is going to do the work for you. You have to be willing to look at the parts of yourself of your life. Be honest. I think a lot of us like to live in this world, and it was something that I used to do, and I caught myself, and now I see everyone else when they're doing it, and I'm not judging them. I just see parts of myself. When I used to tell a story about my life and what was happening in it, I would try to make the people in my life not seem like an issue. Like, so say it was like a friend. I'm like, oh, but she's not that bad, or it's not that bad, or I mean, and I'm not trying to say, girl, say the thing. Like, we're not talking about them. Say what's true for you. This is something I had to learn. Say what's true for you so that you can actually work on what's really there. Yeah. You have to be willing to say the things that you think are going to make everybody run away from you.
Yeah. It's so true though, because when we do the whole, but they're not that bad, that's us still protecting them so they can give us the thing that we're getting from them, right? Like, and this is where you get really fucking honest with yourself, right? Like that radical responsibility piece of like, hold on, where am I protecting them because I'm not willing to speak up? Yes. Where am I like protecting myself? Because if I speak up, I'm not going to have the love that they're giving me. Like, what is this really? Like, this is where the work is, right?
That part. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And until you're ready to say that and do that, you find yourself stuck in like these cycles of like unfulfillment. Like you always feel like something's missing. Like, oh, okay, well, I got the car, I got the house, I got the kids, I got the career, but why am I not happy? Like, let me go get my nails done. Let me go do this thing. And while those things may bring you joy in the moment or make you feel good in the moment, when you come back home with your pretty toes and your pretty nails, you're still like, and something is still missing.
Yeah.
And and that's it. That's the part that's missing. Like that part of being brutally honest with yourself about what's happening within you. That's the part of self-love I feel like everyone is trying to skip over. You want the good feeling without getting if you want the good feeling and you want it to be lasting, you want joy. I seek joy over happiness. Give me joy. Because I feel joy is, once I have joy in my heart, like there's nothing you can do to take away my joy. I tap into that all the time. Like I get my own joy. It's in my own storage. It's right here. Right. And if you want to tap into that, you got to do the work. You got to go in there and see what's up.
Yeah. I love that too, because for like, I've spoken to so many women like over the years that I've been doing this, and joy seems to be the one thing that they say that they can't get to. And it's because it's like, for me personally, and I'd love to hear your take on this, right? It's we've been conditioned to not experience it, because what happens when we experience it, right? When we actually know that feeling, you can't, as you said, you can't take that, right? That's a power source. And coming from there, as opposed to the victim, the person that's without, the person who's hard done by, there's a different energy, there's a different frequency. So why would they create a world where we get joy? Because what comes in from that? Everything. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree, right? They would rather you have like fleeting happiness, right? Let me sell you this fleeting happiness because I can continue to sell you that. Like I can continue to let me get you a fix. Let you get a fix, right? Happiness is profitable. Like temporary happiness is profitable.
That is so true.
Yeah. I mean, they built things around that. They built the world around that so that you can go to a place and get happiness, but go back home and still feel empty.
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to tap into your yes. It's like a subscription. It's a subscription based happiness.
Fuck. I love this. This is so good. Oh my God.
Yes. But when you can create your internal joy, when you figure out that you were born with joy in your heart, you were born joyous, right? Like the world has taught you differently. And it's unlearning all of those things and understanding that you can have joy in your sorrow.
Yeah.
I found joy in my sorrow, in the loss of the twins. I still find joy, right? Like, I get up and I hold these workshops, and my workshops are literally built around my healing, like built around how I found joy again. And I watch women go from their deepest sadness in the 4 hours we're together, their deepest sadness into joy, because joy is accessible through your grief. True joy.
Yeah.
And they're not going to market. Why market that? Like, why would I want to give you the ability to have a limitless source of joy? You could be walking through, the world without needing X, Y, and Z for me to like sell you. So
it's so big. Hey, it reminds me of like, this was a couple years, well, probably not even a couple years back. It's probably like 12 months ago. I was in a mood, like I was hard out in a mood, and I was like, Ebane walks into the kitchen. I'm standing there all cranky and stuff, and he's like, like so happy, right? Just in his own little bubbly place. And I'm like, why are you so happy? Like that was my response to him. And he's turned around and he's like, what, because you're in your shit, I have to be in mine? No thanks, and just walks up. And I was like, as you're explaining this to me, that's literally all I can see is this guy being like, and I'm like,
listen. He's like, that's yours. That's not mine. That is yours.
It was like the biggest, like, oh, yeah, right. Like, I just had to sit in that then. I was like, oh my God, I'm expecting my mood to affect him right now. Like,
yes.
This is how society is conditioned, though. One person sad, everyone has to footstep around them, right? And like that, for me, when he did that, that was like so brave, right? Because I can be you can imagine me. I can be like, what? Like, did you just fucking say? But
Right.
then when he gets me, I'm like, oh, like, and I find it so funny. He always anchors into like the deeper levels of self love, and some of us just we can't see that when we're not experiencing that ourselves. And I remember the first time we like had a serious argument, right? Like I was angry, I was yelling at him, and I was just like, can you just like yell at me or something? I said to him, and he's like, no, I won't speak to you when you speak to me like that. And so we sat there in silence, and I was like, can you just say something? He goes, I'm not going to speak just because you're uncomfortable in the silence. And I was like, oh, this man is here to teach me so much.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
And like, but I think this is where a lot of like people, they're not willing to sit in those pieces, right? And like the reason why I'm getting at this is because I know that you've walked through this a very similar path with your partner, like deepening what it is to be loving yourself inside a relationship as well. And a lot of women, when they get into this, right, they start loving themselves and they think they have to leave.
Yes.
They think, he can't hold me. He's not worthy of me anymore because I love myself now. And it's like, you not realize who loved you through everything.
Oh, talk about it. And now I feel like you're really hitting. Woo! Because baby, I was one of them. Like, oh, I'm expanding so much. He's not ready for all of this expansion. No, that was never the case. And if anything, my husband has been such a powerful mirror for me of where I am and how aligned I actually am with the words that I'm speaking versus how I am living. We've been married 13 years this year, and we have we have 5 beautiful children, including the twins. And it was, I feel like the moment you say, I'm going to love myself and I am true to this, everything just starts to come up. Like everything starts to unearth. Everything is coming like, well, how much do you love yourself? Do you love yourself this much? Are you willing to it really felt like as I got deeper into knowing who I am, it got challenged at every level. And the easier way would have been to walk away. And I would be lying to people if I didn't say that I never had those thoughts, right? Like, why stay somewhere when I've evolved so much?
Yeah.
I'm so evolved.
I've been there too.
I'm so evolved. No, and it was honestly, Darnell, this is my husband's name. Darnell taught me so much about communication. I am like such a better communicator. I am such a better listener because of him in our conversations. It was his willingness to be patient with me in my evolution, right? As I evolved, he had to learn to love someone who was completely different than the woman that he married. Yeah. I was no longer operating the same, and I had new standards, and I had new expectations. I had new all of these things, and he like, hold up, never communicated those with me. Like, you just showed up in this. Yeah. And so, yeah, definitely had to sit back and realize that self-love and isolation sounds really beautiful, but that's not the work. Like, we did not come to this world to love ourselves by ourselves and be alone. That was never that was never it. And so I would say that my self-love and my journey with myself only deepened through the mirroring that he gives me. Like, it is so beautiful, and I hope that I'm expressing it the way that it needs to be expressed, because I know myself better because of him.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, like, I'm like, when those triggers come, I'm like, oh, well, what's here? That's the question now, right? Like, oh, what's here for me? Like, why is this?
And I'm like, every time I want to run, there's a new identity about to fucking die, right? Like, every time.
Right. Ego is like, no, we're dying here. And And one day I can remember us having a conversation, and I forgot. I want to say we were kind of like at odds, and we're in the car. And I don't know if I was driving, we were really at odds, right? Because I'm not the driver. He is the driver. So I would say I was driving. And I'm like, not knowing, we live in Hawaii, and I didn't know where I was going. And I'm driving, and I'm like, hey, can you look up this address for me? Da, 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 da. He was like, you already put it in the thing. He said whatever he said. And then I said something again, asking for help, and he said whatever he said. And I said, I need your help. I need you to help me. I don't know where I'm going. I need you to help me. And he was like, let me help her. Like, he went on and helped me, but like, it was like, it worked. And while that
just knew those words, right? It's like, just say, I need you to help me. He'll be like, what do you need? I will fucking bend down on my knees and I will bow down to you.
But it was like so many. I was asking for help in all those ways, but the way in which I was asking for them, weren't well received.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I was like, okay, like people want to choose to struggle.
Yeah.
And I don't want to choose to struggle. I want all the help and support that I can get, whether it be from my husband, my family, if I need support, I'm going to ask for help. And that was ego for me, though. Ego had to die for that.
Yeah.
Ego had to definitely die.
I honestly think the recipe for success is learning to ask for support. Like, just like, that's the rule book. Just fucking learn when to say, hey, I need support right now. I need help. Right?
Oh my, yes. And in everything. Right? Yeah. And something that I think also is in your healing and in loving and learning yourself, not trying to do that alone.
Yeah.
There are so many people. I promise you, being in a space with like other women, myself as just like a participant, and hearing their stories gave me so much power in my own story that I was like, yeah, and you're right. And like, I don't have to carry this alone.
Yeah. But I think, sorry, I was just going to say.
No, go ahead.
Preston, a mentor of both of ours, he always says, what's most personal is most universal. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. It's like, we're like, I can't share this. This is mine. And it's like, I guarantee you go and share that with 3 people, at least one of them's going to relate. At least one person is going to have something where they're like, oh, I've got you, right? Like, and if you don't have those 3 people in that, it's time to get a new fucking community. It is time to get new people around you. Like,
yes.
The level, like, there's a saying, like, you will rise and fall to the level of your environment. And so often, like, people didn't understand in the beginning of my journey. And, like, look, I invest a lot more now because I can. But back in the day when I had, like, nothing, I'm talking, like, I was in the red in my bank account before my business started really taking off. And I was still, every time I had something spare, I was investing. I was trying to get in proximity with people who fucking got it. Because I knew I had a mentor. Well, he was like, when I was a personal trainer, he was on the personal training course. And this guy was like doing it just for fun. He was the guy who built the cyber security for all the banks across Australia. So he was loaded. And he's just there. And I was like, every time I talk to him, I just pick his brain for everything because I was like, oh my God, he's so smart. And he was like, if there's any advice I can give you, is just, if you see someone doing what you want to do whatever it takes to be in their pocket. Like, that was his advice. And so the minute I would find people, I was like, let me be close to you. Like, how do I get close to you? And that's the key, right?
we're literally like the same people on different like paths. Like, yeah, no one had to tell me that. I seen it. I was like, why would I've always looked for mentors. I feel like there was never anybody in my sphere where I grew up that was like truly outside my parents. My parents are probably like my biggest mentors. But like, I didn't see people that I wanted to emulate until I got older. So like, it was like the Lisa Nichols. And then and from Lisa, I seen Preston, right? I went to Lisa's thing and left. I said it to Lisa recently. I went to Lisa to be with Lisa and left with Preston. And I was like, yeah, I know this guy, Preston. He's like who I need to be with right now. And I literally did. I went to like her challenge, her thing. Preston got on there. I never heard of him a day in my life. And I was like, oh, I'm leaving with him. Yeah. and I joined his program right after that. And but I finally seen someone who was embodying the attributes that I knew I had in me, but didn't know how to access. And because I could see it, I'm like, ooh. And I know I'm not the only person who feels like this. Everyone feels like this when they see Preston, right? Everyone feels like this when they see him. That really, for me, I knew that he was supposed to be my mentor. So like hitching and getting in proximity of him was like the next thing. And the same thing happened with every other person I worked with after that. Yeah. And now I'm back with Lisa, right? And now in a couple of weeks I'm going to her house, right?
So good. So I remember when I was coaching you and you were like, I just want to be close to her. This is like so amazing. I'm just celebrating you so much.
Right. So, but like, that's it though. It's trusting yourself, loving yourself enough to know that you deserve it, that it's already in you to have it, and everything that you desire wants you to. It's like, how do I get in alignment with that? Yeah. And that really is a lot of shedding. Casey, like we had conversations in the middle of like some of my breakdowns, like when things were not so great and things were looking like, okay, so when things are feeling like they're all falling apart or everything's being thrown at you, like how can I not just weather this storm, but take the lessons from it? Like what is happening here for me that is getting me ready to go to the spaces and places that I'm meant for?
Yeah. I always say, and you probably heard me say this as well, it's like when you choose alignment, everything that's not aligned, it's going to come up. It's got to come up because you get to choose, like, which one do I take? The path that I know is like pulled through me, like God is like, come on, or the path that is easy. I'm telling you right now, the right path ain't the easy path. Everyone will say it's meant to be so easy. And everyone who teaches energetics is like, it will feel so right and easy. I'm like, no, it won't. I'm like, it would be so easy to go and get a job.
Let's talk about it. I got 3 degrees. I need everyone to know that I have 3 degrees. I can be someone's therapist. I can be somebody's teacher. I can be like, but no. Yeah, no, you're right. You go ahead. I digress. Yeah, it would be so easy. It'd be so easy.
It's the point though. It's the point. And this, like, I see so many people like really landing in the space of like, I know that there's something more for me, but I'm just not willing to sacrifice what I have, the comfort that I have, right? And for me, if there's one thing that I know, if there's ever an element of complacency, that's when I know I'm not choosing me. That's when I know I'm not really playing all out. And I'm like, okay, like, let's go. Like, you know, and I think when we start to really own that space, like as you know, I facilitate with Preston now in Bridge and those sorts of things. And he calls me because he wanted me to do a more senior role in it. And I was like, I was so looking forward to just like doing, and I'm like, okay, yep, let's go. I was just like, I almost caught like complacency in that, right? Yeah. And I was like, this is where the work is. Yeah. It's like choosing that call forward. And I really would love to hear your take on this, because the women that do come into your world and into mine, right? It's so easy to walk with a wall, with protection, with like, you know what, I've just got me, right? That also is the thing that's stopping that call forward from coming through, right? So I'd love for you to speak into like, you know, a couple of ways of just to really allow yourself just to like stop and assess, essentially, of like, am I in this, right? Like when you hear that, like what comes through for you?
So just making sure that I'm understanding what you're saying, because I know where I want to go with it.
Just go wherever's true for you, because I feel like
okay,
had that.
Okay, yeah. No. It's so me being someone who is like a recovering, I got me. Like, don't worry about it, I got me. And like, if you were to be speaking and I was in your audience, I might just be looking at you like this. It could all be landing, but I could just be like, she doesn't know anything about my life and she couldn't do anything for me, right? That type of energy, not trusting. Thinking that everybody wanted to take from me. They weren't trying to give, right? This is just the mindset. So walking up with that wall. So not only do I have a wall up in front of me, but I have preparation of being able to take care of me. Okay, I got receipts of how I can take care of me. Is the most exhausting thing that I ever did in my life. That wall, women who have that wall typically are high accomplishing, right? Especially the women that come into my world. They're doctors, lawyers, scientists, they're therapists, right? They're mothers, right? They carry so much, and they're so worried about what other people are trying to take from them that they block from receiving. And when you block, you know better than anybody, when you block from receiving in any one area of your life, you're blocking all areas. So if you're someone right now, a woman right now, who feels like there's more, just inkling of, I want to feel connected to. And whatever two is to me, to love, to abundance, to my body, like whatever that connection is, I would say lean into that and find one person, one space that you can trust. Like whether that be with Case, whether that be with me, whether that be with the Prestons of the world, find a space where you can show up and be seen. Because once you're seen, Case, I don't know about you, but once I was seen, there was like no undoing. Like I was like, oh, I was like blown wide open. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm seen. It's over. And it wasn't just being seen by someone else, but it allowed me to see myself.
Yeah.
To see myself in a way in which I never had saw myself, outside of my victimhood, outside of my trauma, outside of, all of the things that helped me build up this perspective and this ego and this wall. Once I was seen in spaces where I was safe, all of that started to come down. And I found myself in all the rooms that, I've always wanted. And then that comes up all the time. It's not like the wall's gone and I'm good to go. One wall down. No, we're talking about walls and walls and walls.
It's like every time you get to it, there's a new wall you got to put down, and it's like, okay, we're here at this one. It's like you got to climb over, like chin first, like pull stuff up.
Let me see what these back muscles got left in them, because
if you can't chin up, you're not going up to the next level.
But seriously, that was what I would say to the woman who is dealing with that wall. And the only person who can break that wall down is you. Like, that's choice. The most powerful thing that we have in this world, I believe, is choice. And like you were saying earlier, choosing who you put yourself in proximity with. Choosing, right? I don't know why I'm joining this program. Preston's program was the most, at the time, was the most expensive thing I had ever invested into in myself. And I didn't know the guy for more than 2 months. I mean, like a week, a day, 2 days. And it was like, I'm gonna do this thing. And you know what my husband did? He put the deposit down. Like I told him I wanted it. I really believed in myself, and he really believed in me. Did not know this man, but he believed in me. And then that allowed me, so I had to speak it. I had to be vulnerable with my husband to be like, hey, can we put $2,500 in this thing over here? That's going to be $6,000. And trusting it. And I over tripled that within like the first 4 weeks of that. Right. So like trusting those nudges that are saying, go that way, see what's there. And not expecting it to be the end all be all. Yeah. Right. You get like people go into different things and I'm like, well, I didn't get anything because you chose not to get anything.
Yeah. I always say now, I'm like, if you just walk away with one thing, like one perspective shift that changes your life, there's something there, right?
Because if you realize that one perspective shift literally is the difference between you having everything that you desire.
Yeah.
It could have just been this one block. You don't know why everything else seems to be lined up, but this one thing just does not seem to line up. And you go into that space, and now all of that extra work, you're like, oh, that's too much. But that one thing shifted, and it all became worth it.
I'll never forget years ago, right? Like, this was back in the earlier stages of my coaching career. I was like, I want to just scale and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I hired these coaches who were meant to be big name. And it was like it was 11 grand USD, like for 8 weeks of group coaching. It was one call a week, and that was it. There was no curriculum. There was nothing I had to follow through. And at the end of it, I was like, fuck, I feel like I didn't get anything out of it, because all they did was tell me to do the same thing that I was already doing, just more of. I was so angry. I was like, and then one day I was like, you know what? At least I've got the confidence now to know that I fucking provide. And then I was like, oh, that was what I got out of the program, right? My coaching business blew up after that. Like, it blew up. And I think this is where it's like so many people will dismiss a thing that they've been like considering or invested in, but I was like, that was an $11,000 confidence boost that showed me I was valuable.
Yo, I kid you not. That's the mindset you have to have, though.
Yeah.
It's perspective. Like, that's the perspective of what you look at, what you're getting out of something. You can go and do one thing, and I can go do another thing, and we can get to two completely different things out of it, because we are both desiring different things.
Yeah.
I got a quick story to that, though. I just paid like $11K for a program, and they were gonna have like a retreat and on the same days as my retreat, but I had already paid for the program in full. Yeah. And I was like, dang, can I get into the next program? And they were like, no, you can't, because we don't know when that's going to be. So you could have like this 11K credit. Mind you, though, before I paid like this 11K, they had another program that was way more appealing to me. But it was 45,000, and I was like, I was just like, 25,000, that's a lot of money. But I literally, I ended up investing into that one, right? So like now I was like, see, if you would have just went with what you knew you wanted, you would have had 11K to go to this 45, but like, that's the price you pay, one, when you're not being in alignment with what. And I still trust that will still work its way out too. Like, I trust that had to happen in order, because I felt comfortable. That was easy. I was like, 11K, yeah.
Yeah.
What about,
yeah.
And then later on, I'm like,
right? I remember, like, this year we've spent together like a lot investing in, like, what I'm doing behind the scenes, right?
Right.
And when we first made that, I was like, oh, this is the juiciest one we've done together. Like, this is big. Like, this is really big, because it's not just like, the investment. It's like we're constantly flying to America now. We're taking time off everything, and like, like, it's big. And
right.
I remember sitting in that and being like, okay, cool. It's not just about the money. It's also about the time. It's also about the travel. It's about sorting my son out. It's about these little things. And then I was like, but this is what it is to choose it. Right? Yes. And it's like, so many people, they want the shortcut. And I think about how many times I paid like just do the masterclass, or just do this. And then now I'm like, if I added all those tiny little bits up, I probably would have spent what I would have spent if I had just gone all in anyway. Right? Crazy.
It like, literally, like, I just said, if you want to be lukewarm, if you're lukewarm, you'll get lukewarm results, right? You do lukewarm work, you get lukewarm results. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to either put if you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're out. You're not in, you're out, right? Yeah. You're out. If you want to be in. And when you're all in on yourself, that does take, and that doesn't matter if you're investing into like a program, your fitness, your whatever it is you're investing into. If you're all in on yourself, that comes with some sort of risk. Like, that comes with some sort of pain. That comes with uncomfortability.
There's there's an old saying that, if you truly desire wealth, you must be willing to hold the responsibility of it. And that's where most people aren't willing to do that. It's like wealth and responsibility go hand in hand. It's like the risk is the responsibility. It's like, you know, I see a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'll just invest, and then they don't put any energy in. And it's like, the money, that's a representation of energy, sure, but how you hold that energy matters. Like, if I'm going to invest, it's like that's where your word of discipline comes back in, right? It's like, how am I showing up for this? What am I giving in this space? And it's like, I know we've kind of gone and zigzagged a bit everywhere today, but I really want to like land in something here, because I think, you know, we're talking about coaching businesses right now. However, to bring it right back, it's like, this didn't start with businesses.
It didn't.
Right? It started with just being the student in the room. Right? And I think a lot of people think, they go, oh yeah, like, you know, you've just spent 45 grand on this or whatever it is. And that it's like, well, I don't have a business, I can't invest that. It's like, I've invested a lot just for me.
Yes.
Like, just for me. And I think, irrespective of the business, you are the most important piece.
This may sound crazy to you, Case, but everything that I do within my business is just a belief in myself and belief in what I deserve. Right? Like, so the business is just the vehicle in which I express it and am able to do my work, my service.
Yeah.
But everything that I do, it just is like, okay, God, where are you leading me? Where is this going? I trust you completely and wholly. I surrender to all that is mine that you have created for me. Like, it's this beautiful opening and journey of just like deep surrender, really, and trust.
Yeah.
And work, right? Like, all of these things. So none of this was separate. None of it was separate. It was all the same. We were talking about the same thing the entire time.
Yeah. But I say it all the time inside my mastermind and with my clients, right? It's like, I can teach you all the strategy, I can teach you all the things, and none of it matters, because it's about who you're being. Like, strategy is just a fucking skill set. Who you're being is the person who adopts that strategy and actually does something with it, right? So it's like, there's a real like depth when it comes to holding yourself accountable on that level. And so in that, I'm just mindful of time. We've been talking a while now, and I'm sure we could talk for like 3 more hours. Not be a thing. But I just really want to bring it home, like, to the women that are listening now. If this was the last time that they were ever to hear you say something, right? The last time that they were to hear your medicine, your voice, the thing that you had to share, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that no matter what has happened, no matter where they've been, what they've been through, that they deserve everything that they desire. And that everything that they desire wants them to, it's just waiting on them to choose themselves. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's real.
It's what I've lived. It's what I see. It's so real that it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. That's what I believe in.
Yeah, beautiful. So what have you got coming up? How can people find you?
What do I have coming up? I have a retreat, but guys, that one's already booked and sold out. But the next one's coming up. The next one is coming up in spring of 2025. The book is releasing. It's on pre-order right now on my website, www.laniecelistens.com. Instagram. Yeah, put all that in. All of my socials are Laniece Listens. So very simple and easy to find. And yeah. And just stay in touch with me, because whatever I'm doing, I'll always post about it. I've been pretty good at social media lately.
So good. Well, you know, I love you. I've loved this conversation so much. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much, Case. I really appreciate you and your audience for having me. And yeah, until next time, Next time I have to have you on mine when I do one day, right?
For sure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Embodied Business.